Bounce, bitches. So real quick, I just want to say a huge shout out to this couple in Sweden. She hit me up on Instagram. She said her husband is watching my YouTube channel to learn English. Don't do that. Please don't do that. This is the worst play. Like, if you want to watch the new videos to learn English, great. But don't watch anything previous 2018 to learn English, because it's just going to be bitches, Hawkeyes, motherfuckers. It's going to be all that type of shit. You know what I'm saying? So your husband's going to visit United States or the United Kingdom, and he's going to greet people by saying, bitches. What's good, YouTube? It is your boy Thesis, aka Thesis himself, from Vaping with Thesis. That's right, God bless it. Now look, now I know what you're asking yourself.
Hey, yo, Thesis, what model was that, bitch?
That's a great question, high pitch viewer. Now peep game, son. This is not what we have to review today. This is a Smo-Ant conversion that I built like a week and a half, 2 weeks now, and it's dope. I like it a lot. My son picked this up and he really didn't want it anymore. I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to build my own mod. I always wanted to take an electronic product that already works, add a mod to it, or build a mod around it and have it work as a mod as well as whatever it was intended to do. This is that device. This ended up working out flawlessly. And yes, it does work. And no, I did not build the components itself. The components themselves, I kind of just stripped away from different devices. The Smo-Ant RA box, I also used the Moyan Joker, as well as the Moyan, I forgot what the other one was called, but the Moyan something or other. It worked out really, really well. And yes, I even used a Fat Daddy from a DNA 250 device. Bam. Can you hear Tank? Tank is, my dog is just being an ass monkey right now. Tank, what's wrong with you, bro? I know, I get it. P.S. This video is a bitch to record. We record several of these. I'll be out of town in the Dominican Republic relatively shortly. I had a water pipe or a sewer pipe. I'm pretty sure it's frozen, so it's backed up. I've been having to do some fucking sump pump, not sump pump. I've been having to use a transfer pump from my storage room in the middle of a cornfield. It's been terrible. It's been a terrible situation. Hi, mother truckers. Now today's feature is the VooPoo drag. This is a long time coming. I cannot wait, or I could not wait to record this review specifically because of the price. It's economical. It's extremely well balanced in terms of performance. With that being said, mother truckers, let's go and take a look at the feature, the VooPoo drag. Okay, smooth truckers, now peep game, son. Today we have got the VooPoo drag with the gene chip on this bad mother truck. Let's go and open the box. Look how gorgeous this thing looks. First impressions have a lot to do with how I'm going to look at this mod or this device, any device. I actually expected this thing to be relatively average when it comes to comparing this device with any other device. Reason being is because of its $48 price tag. Now, I don't think that I'm out of line for thinking that. Anything that's going to cost you 48 bucks and then they promise you the world, kind of gets me a little bit worried. Now, with that being said, all of my worries have kind of been set aside. Let's go ahead and take a look at the box. This is exactly how you receive it. On the rear side, you've got drag, or on the front side, I guess, depending upon which way you look at it. You do see the DRAG drag logo in the back with the Bellomo 10 times loop, and it does appear to be printed, not necessarily laser etched, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys the close-up. Look at that. So it looks to be painted, not laser etched, but that's kind of what you would expect for a $48 device. The paint on here is exceptional. When I say exceptional, I cannot believe that I haven't scraped every inch of this box. I've left this outside for about a half hour or so on accident. I dropped it when I was starting up the snowmobile, and I couldn't find it for a solid half hour or so. All I did was take it back into the shop. I opened it up, dried it out, and she is perfect. Not to say that there's an O-ring or a seal between the battery sled and the body or chassis itself. You can see a small dent right where I dropped it. If you take a close look, you can see this dent right there. It did discolor it. You can see the stainless steel, the bare metal coming out from behind it. Not a big issue. The fact that they took the time and did the interior as well in terms of paint, look at that. Absolutely beautiful. They took the time, and you can tell that they took their time. I think what they did to get a device this inexpensive and this high quality was literally slash their profit margin in hopes that they could sell a bunch of them. And I'm fairly certain they hit their goal. I mean, I can't go on Instagram, scroll through anything vape related without seeing this specific device. Not only this specific device, but in a variation of colors. When you're talking about the physicality of something like this, You're seeing the gold-plated contacts. You're seeing the perfectly matched doors. You're seeing the beautiful resin look-alike rubberized paint. This is something that I think is going to be a classic in terms of economical devices. You do see the battery strap here, beautifully printed VooPoo right on there, as well as Just Drag Gene chip. I like the fact that they're taking the time to tell you specifically which chip is inside of this box. Now, a quick side note on this chip, it's called the Gene chip, and I think, I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure that they're kind of taking a jab at DNA for the fact that DNA kind of charges quite a bit for their devices. Anybody using that chip to build their devices are going to charge, generally speaking, double what they would cost with any other chipset. With that being said, DNA to me seems to be worth it. That's just my opinion. The Gene chip for me is still pretty unknown, and it's not time tested. There is a divot cut out specifically for this battery strap. Let's go and pop the batteries in real quick. The link to these batteries are in my description. These are the ones that I trust the most. Bam, throw that right there. Positive on this side, absolutely gorgeous. So that strap does sit nice and firm and flush to the bottom of that battery sled. Something I like to see. It's actually something I haven't noticed a lot of other companies do. Pop this on, extremely strong battery door. The magnets on here are perfect. You got one at the top, one at the bottom, and then you see that the battery door actually sits beneath this lip. Take a look at that. See how this lip comes down? You have the actual deck itself, and then it comes down and then comes back out. This battery door sits beneath that. Why is that important? Because when I drop this, a lot of times, I want to say at least 2/3 of the time, the battery door does not come off. That's a big deal for anything that's magnetic. Any magnetic door that I've used and loved usually sits above this bezel. And to me, it seems like they've taken the time to do a little bit of R&D and see how that works. If they didn't and they got it on accident, then damn it, they lucked out. So again, we'll go ahead and take a look at the box on the inside. Pop this out, this little foam insert, and you got a cardboard insert on the bottom, and this is literally all you have. A very small micro USB cord propped up with a twisty tie. Oh, it's about a foot. I know I've said this in the past, and I still think it now. I do prefer to see something at least 16 inches, 18 inches. I would prefer something like 3 feet. Then you've got the little Gene chip card. Gene on the front, powerful chip, born forever. Gene, bam. Warranty card, extremely intuitive. If you know how to use a DNA device, you know how to use this chipset. There's nothing on here with any ridiculous, spectacular features. It's very cut and dry. Temperature control, sweet, the whole 9 yards. Open her up. Bam, shows you all of the information, the working voltage, working current, your maximum amperage rating. I think it's 40 amps on this bad boy. Again, the box is very basic, exactly what you would expect for a $48 device. The presentation on it is nice. It's not overdone. It's not ridiculous. So my experience with this device has been good. It's not amazing, and there's a couple of reasons I'll get into why it's not amazing, but it's been good. The way that it feels in the hand is old school. When I say that, I mean that as a compliment. It feels like an old school box mod. Period, plain and simple, no getting around it. This isn't meant specifically for comfort. It's not designed around being a lightweight device, which is a good thing in my opinion. It does come in at around 90 millimeters by 54 by 24 millimeters. Not a small device, not a big device. I'm gonna go ahead and compare it to the LMC box right here. Virtually the same design in terms of the corners cut, corners are rounded. Same similar on this bad boy. Corners cut, rounded corners on either side. Not a bad design whatsoever. Not saying they're the same, just giving you guys a size comparison. Now, I did pick this up from VapingWithThesis.com, and if you would be so kind to go ahead and click the link in the description if you're going to pick this up, if you already haven't done so, and that way I get a 10% kickback, and that is how I'm able to afford these devices for y'all Ninja Kitties to review. So back to the chip, 157 watts, definitely a decent amount of power, not 200 watts, not 230, not 240 watts, 157. I think they were trying to be a little bit more unique with that. I would prefer to see it upwards of 200 watts. That's just my preference. I do use a couple of devices or a couple of tanks rather that will be able to hit 200 or 220 watts without any issues. This bad boy specifically, the Avid Vape Ghost Inhale, this bad boy is insane. That actually brings me to something where I think is kind of wobbly in my opinion. When I say wobbly, I mean this. They claim that it's 0.025 seconds to get to the full firing capability or full firing wattage that you have it set at. In my experience, this actually seems slow. It was about a week or so of use of this device before I ever even looked at the Vapor DNA description or at the website description when they talk about the chip being able to fire as fast as 0.025 seconds. So with that being said, it's also dependent upon variables like the size of the coil, the diameter, the actual wire itself, the resistance, and then the combination of all of those things. When it says it can fire at 0.025 seconds, that's kind of subjective. I mean, you think it would be an objective situation, but it's not. I think that's they're testing it at the most optimum way possible. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this 0.39 ohm coil on here. It'll ask you new, yes, coil, no. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. It's going to show me 40. Now you think at a resistance range of 0.39 to 0.40, it's going to fire like this. Let's go ahead and take a listen to see how long it actually takes to fire. You guys heard that. That was a solid 3/4 of a second to a second before it was actually able to vape. That is subjective. This coil size is 12 millimeters in diameter. This is literally the biggest coil I've ever used on a sub-ohm tank. On my DNA, on my Tug Life that I actually don't have with me at the moment, there are variabilities in there. I don't want to take the manufacturer's numbers for gospel. So before I pop my daily vape back on this device, I want to show you guys this absolutely gorgeous 510 deck. The threads on here are absolutely stunningly smooth for the cost of the device. As I press on that positive pin, you will see that it is spring-loaded. It's not just wobbly, it's actually spring-loaded. Gold-plated contact on there. Beautifully insulated, no issues. I haven't had any problems with pushing it down too far and it getting stuck. I'm gonna go ahead and place that fire loop on there. New coil, yes or no? Positive. Again, this is not a feature I'm a fan of. Some people will enjoy this. It's going to make an educated guess on where the wattage should be for whichever coil you place on it. Personally, I'm not a fan of that. I want it to stay exactly where I put it previously. 110 watts is roughly where I like to be on this fire loop. Let's go ahead and take a puff of room. So again, on this particular coil, on the fire loop, this thing will fire extremely fast. But the chip itself seems to be a bit sluggish. When it's in its sleep mode, it takes a second to wake up and you'll actually see it boot up for a second. Not saying that that's a negative, I am saying keep that in mind. There is some fine tuning that can and should be done with this chip over time, and I'm sure it will be. And there is an app you can download for PC for this device. I am a fan of having apps to actually customize these chips. The issue is it kind of alienates certain customers. Me, for example, I'm a Mac user, so therefore I cannot use the PC software unless I use Boot Camp, which I am not using. Aside from that, I do like the fact that there is an app that comes with it. Again, something that harkens back to DNA. DNA has the exact same thing with their eScribe program. The chip itself does fire down to 0.05 ohms. It does fire all the way up to 3.0 ohms, which is always a good thing, especially for guys who still rock cartomizers. Granted, this is not necessarily a device I would recommend for a cartomizer. It does have a limit of 40 amps output, which is a good thing. That's what you would expect in a regulated device. So again, it's not necessarily aimed towards ergonomics. The physical feel of this is heavy, it's hefty, it's large, but I love it. There's nothing about that I dislike. For someone who's looking for a smaller device, this isn't going to be for them necessarily, but this is going to be a high-end feeling mod for a low-end budget. Period, plain and simple. The buttons are beautifully CNC'd, all of which are protruding out of the facade of the device. 5 on and 5 off. Easy to use. 1, 2, 3 is going to go ahead and put you in a temperature mode. 1, 2, 3. Nickel. 1, 2, 3. Titanium. 1, 2, 3. Back to wattage mode. Nothing about this device is difficult to use. I really enjoy that fact. Just like any other device, I don't care how nice it is it user-friendly? In this case, absolutely it is. Now, something that was interesting, they did say that there's a carbon fiber plate. Not necessarily sure which side they mean, whether it's this one. See this little black film? It kind of reminds you of a Polaroid. And then on this side, you've got something that could be considered carbon fiber, but I'm not 100% sure unless I would have scraped that paint off. And to be honest, I was kind of on the fence on whether or not I was going to do that, but I kind of decided against it. I like this mod so much that I don't want to purposely mess it up. Now, one of my biggest complaints about this device is my average size for a tank is 25 millimeters. This device has an issue with that because there is definitely a lip on either side. If they were to allow the frame or the chassis to come out just a hair more, or even have just a circle right around there that was a little bit wider, it'd be able to accommodate a 25 millimeter and above RDA or RTA or sub-ohm tank with ease. But the fact that there's a millimeter on each side kind of bothers me. Okay, mother truckers. Now with that being said, let's go and get back to regular view, son. My final summation is this: the VooPoo Drag, in my humble opinion, is the most economical device that I've got my hands on in the past 6 months to a year. 157 watts, an extremely high quality platform, not to mention an extremely well performing chip. With that being said, there are some quirks and qualms that I have with this device. A perfect example would be the old school boxy design. That could be taken as a plus, that could be taken as a negative. For me, it's a plus. I love a heavy, solid design like this. This isn't something that I would be scared of breaking. This device in particular has been through virtually everything I can put it through, including on a snowmobile, falling off a four-wheeler. It's been in snow for more than a half hour, no issues there. I just took it, dried out the interior, brought it back inside, and it was fine. The battery sled is very well made, very well molded, and the fire button is extremely protruding, as well as the adjustment buttons. The positive of that is that it's extremely easy to find. You'll never mistake one side for the other. The screen is easy to read, it's nothing fancy. The 510 on it is extremely smooth, plus I do enjoy the fact that they took the time to CNC and machine out those designs. I always like a solid 510. Even though you don't see it 99.9% of the time, but when you screw it on, There's something about a nice 510, especially when it's got perfect threads like this one. I do wish that the top was not beveled or the entire device wasn't as beveled as it is. That way I'd be able to fit a larger diameter tank onto it. It's not a big deal. It's a tiny bit of a lip. For 48 bucks, you can get something that would have cost $200 2 years ago. The rubberized paint on it, to me, is phenomenal. I love the way that rubberized paint feels. I'm not sure what they were talking about when they said they have a carbon fiber plate. Is that this piece or is that this piece? For this price, on Thesis's patented finger of compatibility scale, I'm gonna give this thing a solid 8.3. The reason why I didn't rake it any higher is simply for this. The thing that kind of sets this device back from being any higher than an 8.3 is the firing rate. The Gene chip claims that it can hit full wattage at 0.025 of a second. I actually felt the exact opposite. The first time I read that was like a week after use. And I'll tell you the truth, one of the major things I noticed about this chip is that it's slow. When it goes down to its sleep mode, you hit the power button and it kind of boots up in a slow fashion. I like instantaneous firing, and it does not seem like 0.025 of 1 second. It just doesn't seem that way. It's sort of dependent upon the diameter of the coil as well as the resistance. But to me, it still seems slow, regardless of which coil I've got on there. I will tell you, the way that it looks, the fact that you have as many options as they give you is insane. The amount of options you have for colors on here will give you the ability to match any RDA, any RTA, and any sub-ohm tank that you want. For me, for somebody who's a long-term user of each of my tanks, so for example, this tank here I've been using for more than a few weeks, but I've got 5 or 6 of these tanks, and I love to be able to match each tank to each device that I'm using. The fact that I'm able to do that by purchasing separate mods or separate tanks that'll match each variation of color is phenomenal. $48 after everything's said and done. You can pick up 2 of these for $100. That to me is worth $300 worth of mods. Hawkeye Smother Truckers, now I want to ask you guys a question, and I want you to answer it honestly. Do you think that VooPoo at its current price rate is going to drive the rest of the industry down in terms of price? Specifically DNA chips, because this isn't as good as a DNA chip in my humble opinion, but it's getting there. Hawkeye Smother Truckers, now with that being said, I want to tell y'all that I appreciate y'all for vaping with Thesis. It is your boy Thesis. I'm out. Bam. Wham bam. My hair's crooked. My face is hot. It's not really hot. I just got sunburnt. Like a mother trucker? Bitches, I forgot we did the intro already because this is going at the end of a different video. Guys, so the reason why I'm doing this, I'm going to take 60 seconds and just let y'all Ninja Kitties know the VooPoo drag no longer exists. Why? Any of you Ninja Kitties going to the Dominican Republic specifically, hold on. Scoozy. I've been from Minnesota to 98% of the states and to Mexico 1,000 times back and forth. No issues with vaping. The Dominican Republic is a different story, all right? So if you're gonna travel from the United States to the Dominican specifically, I would highly suggest you bring less than 3 mods. So maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 at the most. I brought 5, okay? And I went into it knowing that there's a slight possibility that you might end up by getting jacked at the fucking airport by a security guard. So I didn't necessarily think it was gonna come from that, but it did. Long story short is I had my VooPoo drag, I had all my mods out, and then of course, I should not have placed them in one bag. I should have spread it between me and my fiance. I just wasn't thinking about it. Just wasn't thinking. It was like, F***. And then of course, right before we're going through security, I had all my mods in my fucking vape bag. Got past security, and the dude's like, whoa, wait a second. Let me see this shit. And he's like, what are these? What he said in Spanish. ¿Qué es eso, güey? I told him it's fumar. And I know I don't know what the fuck vaping is in Spanish, but fumar is smoking. And I know you shouldn't, it's obvious you don't mix the two. But across the Atlantic, that's what you just say, okay? And he's like, nope, pick one. And so I was like, wait a second, leave. I'm not gonna go back home with only 1 mod, especially all the ones I didn't review yet. The V200 being one of them. To make a long story short, I went to hand him the Defender. He's like, nope. And so I knew what he was doing was looking for the most expensive one, or the one that he thought was the most expensive, and then wanted to take it. So I was like, fuck, he's not gonna let me through the line. I'm not gonna be able to get past security. I'm gonna miss my plane otherwise. So I was like, bam, I was pissed off. I threw him the VooPoo drag, the gold one. He ended up by taking it. And I ripped the back panel off, I took the batteries out, and I went to throw them in my bag, and he took the batteries out of my hand. To make a long story short, it has nothing to do with security clearances, it has to do with how big of a douchebag the security guard is. So to make it simple, bring 3 or less devices, make them as inconspicuous as possible, because they're not taking them for security purposes, they're taking them for personal use, not to vape with, but to sell, to resell. It's that simple. So that's what happened with the VooPoo drag, this gold one. That shit got stolen by a damn fake ass security guard. I've never had any issues going back and forth from here to Mexico. I've had 5 and 6 mods with me in Mexico, no problem whatsoever. Getting back and forth. Dominican Republic, whole different story. Bitch, it's okay, some other truckers. Now with that being said, I want to tell y'all that I appreciate y'all for vaping with Thesis. It is your boy Thesis. I'm out.